So we have this worry that people are going to accept us. And James, like for example, said that when he came here for the first time, and we are afraid sometimes when we are going to perform and if people are going to accept us. And then we have this shyness or anxiety. And sometimes we feel like the world is a big stage where we have to perform to 7 billion people. Can you imagine that? So everywhere we feel like we need to perform to people. We need to perform to our spouse, to our parents, to our children. We have to perform to our boss, to our co-workers, to our friends. And when we are talking to someone, especially for the first time, sometimes comes a question. Is this person liking me? Is this person accepting me? Am I being nice? Am I being polite? Am I treating this person well? And sometimes all these worries come to our mind. Can you accept, for example, when you're going to do an interview for a job, and you worry about what you are going to say and how you are going to dress? What should you speak? How should be your behavior? Your body language? And the thing is that the more you try to be accepted, to be liked, you can't prevent from being yourself and showing your truly person, who you are. Sometimes I see when people come to me as a counselor, sometimes a couple, sometimes a family. And if it's a family, the parents try to show that they are good parents. But they might try as much as they want. I can see who they are, even though they are trying. And couples, the same thing. They may try to show that they are respectful and nice, but I can see how they are. But this brings a lot of anxiety. Because can you imagine you are all the time worried about what you're going to say? And you are demanding on yourself and concerned about your actions? And it starts before you meet the person. Because before you meet the person, sometimes you are already stressed. Like, for example, if you're going to come here at church and you have to sing, I remember that before, I couldn't even sleep well. When I started as a pastor, I couldn't sleep well every Friday night because I was concerned about my preaching, and I was the whole night dreaming about my sermon. And when I was seated there, I was thinking, I have to get up in a while, and I have to go there. How it's going to be. And when I thought about that, just my heart bumped strong, you know. So you are fearful even before. And when you are performing, you are anxious and you are fearful as well. And comes the shyness, right? You feel shy. And when you feel shy, a lot of things happen. Your heart is bumping really strong and fast. Maybe your hands are sweat. You might be shaking a little bit. And then you become even more shy. Because now you think, well, people are realizing how shy and how weird I am. They are realizing that I am stumbling on my words. I look really strange. And it's like how you say, vicious cycle, right? It can get all the way to things like, for example, you might forget what you have to say. It has happened to me. I have seen to my piano students. We had last Sunday a recital of my piano students. You see that these small kids, they have these problems as well. A girl, she played really nice, perfect, was really good how she played. But later on, I knew that she was having like a pain in her stomach while she was playing. And also, shame. Because if you think you did something wrong, you said something you shouldn't say, you made a mistake, you feel so ashamed when you look back. And then you have also guilt. So you become very self-critical, right? And sometimes you also criticize others. Because you think, why do I have to be so worried and so anxious? Shouldn't people be nicer and accept me as I am? Should I be so worried? So what's the solution? How can we overcome these feelings? How can we feel more confident, be relaxed? Well, I want you to read this Bible text. I'm sorry. Okay, so it's James 1 verse 19. My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Now, what does it have to do with this sermon? With what I'm saying? What James is saying is that we need to change our place. Because I said to you that sometimes we feel like the world is a stage that we have to perform to billions of people. Some people, they are so afraid. Like, I'm saying this maybe to myself. Because I suffered from social anxiety. And I think I still have a little bit. I can't say that I'm completely comfortable right now. But I was so anxious before that even talking to one person, just one person, I felt very shy. So some people, they even don't go outside. If they go outside, they may have a panic attack. And then they feel really bad because they had a panic attack, and that's the vicious cycle I told you guys, right? But what James is saying is that instead of being on the stage, be in the audience. Like, for example, you guys feel relaxed right now? But what if you would be here? Would you be as relaxed as you are? You wouldn't be. So the secret to be calm relaxed is if you are in the audience. So what James is saying is that we need to stop performing. We need to let people perform. You know what it means? When you are performing, it's like if you have the spotlight in you, right? I don't know if this is the way, sometimes I don't know if the words in English are really what I'm thinking about. But when people are performing, like the artists, and you have that light, I don't know if that's a spotlight, but you have that light that focuses on them and follow them. You know, I would like to run away from that, but that is focusing on you, so everyone is looking at you, and when you see the world like that, it's very stressful, right? Like people are watching your every movement to see if you are going to do the right thing. But imagine now that you have the control of this spotlight. You take the light and you focus on people. How do you do that? You do that by listening to people, by being interested in people, by making questions. So when you meet someone, when you are with someone, may that person be your spouse, maybe your child, maybe your parent, maybe your friend, your co-worker, put the spotlight on that person. Ask questions. Be interested in the person. How are you? What do you do for a living? How was your week? How was your day? What is your hobby? And there are different kinds of questions. The best question is the open-ended question. Because there are questions that people can respond with a yes or no, right? Or good or bad. But there are questions that are like broadened questions that stimulate people to talk. And when they talk, you show genuine interest. You show that you are a listener, that you are interested in them. And then you respect what they say. You value them. You may make questions to clarify. Let's say you didn't understand very well. Can you explain me this a little bit better? You can also ask a question to get more detail about something. Can you broaden this thing that you said? You know, this particular thing that you said, I want to know more about this. And you can also do something that I call positive consideration. Positive consideration is when you compliment the person, when you make the person feel good. And what you see is that while you are doing this, the person is performing. And you are not in the stage. The person is on the stage. You are listening. Respectfully, with interest. And you know that everyone likes to be listened. I have heard once that the best gift you can give to someone is attention. When you show attention, genuine interest, and you acknowledge, validate what the person is saying, it's so good for the person. And it's also good for you. You feel good when you do that. And your anxiety goes away because you don't have to perform. But the thing is that the person feels loved. The person feels like you really care about her. And Dale Carnegie, who wrote the book how to win friends and influence people. He said that you make more friends in 2 months by being interested in them than in 2 years by getting them interested in you. That's so true. And it's interesting that sometimes we think it's the opposite. It's another paradox, right? Because you think that you need to show yourself, show your knowledge, show your achievements, show your wisdom. But you show better when you show interest. When you listen to the other person. And another Bible text I want you to see is in Philippians 2 verse 3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. In the past, I liked humanism. I even don't know if I'm saying the right thing, but I liked this self-help approach that we are valuable, and that's true, we are valuable, right? Jesus died for us because we are valuable. And I thought that I needed to show people my importance, that when I was with someone, I had to stand up for myself and have this self-confidence. But I learned something that changed my mind. Because what is saying here in the Bible, what the Apostle Paul is saying is that we need to consider people better than ourselves. What does that mean? Does that mean that I shouldn't value myself? That I should put myself down? So I tried this, to treat people better than myself. When I am with people, I treat them as royalties. Imagine that you are a king. And if you are a king, you have servants, right? But imagine that you are the servant. And you treat everybody as a king or a queen. So I started taking this approach, the servant approach. And it's very interesting that I found my self-confidence through humility. It's so interesting. That's another paradox as well, right? Because the logic of God is the opposite of the logic of man. Jesus said, well, if you want to follow me, you need to take the cross. You need to die for yourself. You need to be the servant. You have seen that leaders of men, that they have servants, but you shouldn't be like that. You need to be like servants. So I took this servant approach. And I had this problem that I never really valued myself. I had a very low self-esteem. But when I took the servant approach, I found self-confidence. And the interesting is that the more I valued people, the better I treated people, the better people treated me. So when you are trying to show off, to show how important you are, trying to show your value to people, you don't feel much valuable. But when you change the approach and you try to make them feel important, you take the servant position, you find self-confidence. And they respect you for some reason. People respect you more when you are humble. Your humble attitude shows how great your humility is, actually shows your size or your measure. And the last thing that I want to say is about being vulnerable. And this I tried to explain also last time that I came. And this is the verse that we read last time. It's in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9 and 10. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So, we are sometimes afraid to show our weaknesses. And if people are going to accept us and love us, if we show our humanity, if we are as we are. So sometimes we want to show that we are strong, that we are capable, that we can do things. We want to be perfect to our spouse, to our children, to our parents, to our friends, to our church. And that is our weakness. The Apostle Paul had a problem, and some theologians say that maybe it was a vision problem that he had since he fell down from his horse going to Damascus to persecute the Christians. When the strong light came and he fell down and he was temporarily blind. I think for 3 days he was blind. And then he restored his vision, but maybe not completely. And he thought that he needed to have a perfect vision to have a perfect ministry. He would be much more powerful. But then God told him, don't worry about that, because through your weakness will show my strength. So, as I was saying about me, and that is a self-disclosure, because I am showing you guys also my weaknesses, right? Well, I was always worried about being complimented. And this was because I had a very low self-esteem. And, due to my childhood problems I had before, traumas. So I thought that in order to be accepted, I had to be good. So I always tried hard to be very good, to be perfect. So I was very competitive. And I liked to expose the good things that I did. But you see, I was so anxious because I was so afraid that I wouldn't perform well as I would like. And then I became a counselor. And then, after we graduate, we have 3,000 hours that we need to do to be licensed. And then we have group supervision. And you know that group supervision for me was like a torture. Because what's the purpose of the group supervision? The purpose of the group supervision is that you show your weakness. But that's something I never wanted to show. Because group supervision, you say about your struggles. You have a client that you are not very sure how to do. And then you ask help to the supervisor and the other interns. So you say about your case and they give you suggestions. But that is something I didn't like. Because what I wanted to do is to say how good I was doing. And then get compliments. And I had a problem with a client. And then I felt so bad because I thought, well, I have now to go to the group and expose myself and my weakness. And then came the day and I said, you know, I want to tell you guys, I don't like to feel like I failed. I have really a hard time facing my own weaknesses. But I need to tell you guys, I think I failed on this one. And this happened. Well, it was so interesting that someone told me, well, you remember, I had a client and I felt like I couldn't help him, and I asked you to help, and you are helping him and you are being successful, so you're not as bad as you think. And then after that, another counselor, we met in where the interns meet, and she told me, well, Claudio, you're talking about that, you know, but I think you are a good counselor, and you know what, sometimes I have these fears as well, and I think that I am not doing well, but it's normal. Well, just for you guys to see that when I exposed my weakness, when I overcame my fear, I connected to people because they felt like I was more human. And I never felt so close to people as when it happened. And this really blew my mind. Because I thought that it was my strength, my victories, my deeds that would make people love me and accept me. But when I became weak, when I exposed, when I was vulnerable, this is when people came closer to me and they become friendlier because they felt me like a human being. And it's interesting that when you try to be perfect, you even scare people away. Because you become so distant. You are so good that they don't feel good being close to you. Now, if you think about Jesus, when he came as the son of the king? No. Was he born in the palace? No. He was born there among the animals, in a very humble condition. He came from Nazareth. And they said, from Nazareth? Can something good come from that place? He came from there. He died on the cross. And they thought, well, let's kill him. So this way, we are going to finish with the problem. They didn't understand that the logic of God is different. Because the logic of God is that when you lose, that's when you win. So, he was God, the second person of the Trinity, but he didn't feel like this was a great thing that he couldn't lose. He came in a very humble position. He became vulnerable. He became human. He became flesh like you and me. He died the worst of all deaths, the most humiliating one. And because of this, he was raised for everyone now adore him. So, what I want to tell you is that your weakness is your strength. Your vulnerability. Don't be afraid of being human. Don't be afraid, of showing your failures. Sometimes you may even tell people. Like, for example, let's say you're not married, you're going to go on a date, and you are very shy. And let's say that you are a guy, and the woman say, well, is there something strange with you? And they just say, no, I'm very shy, especially when I am with a beautiful woman like you. That's going to be your strength right there. So be who you are. Don't be afraid. Stop performing. Put the spotlight on people. Value people. Be humble. Treat people better than yourself. And then you're going to be like Jesus. Because he lost everything because he loved us. He showed he was vulnerable for us. That's the principle of the universe. That's how God is. He's a servant. He's our servant. And when we are servants, we are sons and daughters of God. Amen? God bless you guys.